Salutations. What's happening? Today I wanted to go over the mother of the hybrids again in a different way, since last time the moving illustration wasn't there quite. So we'll go over that again, but I also want to describe the ship that I saw her upon once again. Now I've went over that ship before, but what I kind of want to try to cross-reference is that this was an Alliance ship. There are several different beings on there, okay? One would be the Caretaker. Another one would be beings that look similar to the one named Mana with the reverse brain that I showed in another video on this channel. Okay, and then there would be also Xandar, who looked much more like an insectoid, more like a grasshopper as opposed to a mantid. So on this ship there were several different beings, but I did want to go over a little bit more about the external of the ship, the internal, and also the environment, a little more, and some of the technology I saw on there. Alright, one would be, this is the ship that I described in a previous video, one of the first ones that morphed, alright? It started off looking like a metal ship, which is kind of more of a typical saucer with a directional emitter on the top, alright? Then it morphed into this, a crystalline looking Merkaba, is what it looked like, quasi-crystals actually. Alright, so this is that ship itself. Now it looked like it was maybe 100 feet wide on the outside, but it was a great deal bigger on the inside. But we'll talk about all that. We'll go over the illustrations and kind of just draw this together. This is mainly to describe the hybrid chamber itself, because the hybrid chamber of this ship was different than the rest of the rooms I was in. So we'll go from there. Thank you. Okay, this is the inside of this ship, okay? This is one room, all right? One thing that I want to point out is that the walls themselves were a lot like the outside of a mushroom or like a toadstool, all right? They had the consistency of that. That's when I knew they were actually organic, all right? As you can see, the beings here look kind of like smaller versions of the being named Mana. All right, this is another type of being that was on here, which has the reverse brain look. All right, so these are smaller manas, but the most important thing I want to point out about this room and throughout this ship were these eggs. Anyone that's heard me do my interviews with Peter Maxwell Slattery has heard me mention these eggs before. All right, these eggs appeared to be like some type of a glass on the outside and a type of metal on the back, and it was actually these nanotubes that went into the walls. All right, now the lights inside of here, I assume that these were power sources. These eggs were, all right? There was a type of mist that was in these eggs that these lights were floating around in, all right? It was later when some of these lights emerged from the egg that started helping me adjust my time field, that I realized actually those are command officers, okay? Non-corporeal, non-physical command officers. So they're not just power sources in there. They stay in there because the mist itself is part of their environment. So that's part of being on a multidimensional ship, an organic one, all right? This is one room, and like I said, throughout this ship, there were these eggs present. Some of them bigger, some of them smaller, all right? Once again, this is the interior of this organic ship, which also contained the mother of the hybrids, all right? Which I'm starting to call now the Caretaker, but that's another room. We'll go in there. There was also a certain mist in this room as well, okay, that was kind of thick and hard to breathe in, but we'll go over that more later. Thank you. All right, once again, this is what I call the mother of the hybrids, or the Caretaker of hybrids, I guess we could call her. All right, I kind of went over this in the last video, but I wasn't able to actually point to the things. So what I wanted to say is that what was different is that actually she was more of a beige, light beige color, not actually gray. Her eyes were much bigger, all right? Her head in general was quite a bit bigger, but her eyes were much bigger. And the telepathy she emanated to me drew me so close, it's like I was smashing against one of these eyes, all right? Now, this room is once again on the same organic ship that morphed into a Merkaba, all right? This is what I call the Maturation Chamber. This machine here, all right, looked like it was kind of metal wood on the top with the metal like going around it, all right? And it also had some nanotubes that went into the wall. She said it was malfunctioning. Something else, all right, is that there was a very, very deep mist in this room, even thicker than the other rooms from the other parts of the ship that I was in. This was so thick in there that between her telepathic bombardment and the breathing problems I was having, suffering from temporal aphasia, which is when the dimensions are out of sync from what we're used to physically, all right, it was very hard to keep consciousness in there. I was there physically. This wasn't just an astral projection, all right? I was there physically, and it made it very difficult. Even retaining the memory of the event itself was hard. Anyway, this is another room on that ship. I just wanted to go over the Maturation Chamber and point to the device itself. Okay, her arms are very long, and just the environment itself. It kind of smelled like maybe Windex or ammonia, which makes me think there was probably too much nitrogen in the oxygen there, in that mist that floats around. Anyway, this is the Caretaker, mother of the hybrids. In conclusion, all right, the outside of this ship, all right, of this morphing UFO, as I've entitled that in a different video on here, all right, what it did was it started off looking similar to what, like that fake Billy Myers guys called the Pleiadian ship. It looked kind of similar to that on the outside with a dimensional emitter on top, all right, and then it started morphing. It had a gray kind of flash to it, and it started turning into these quasi-crystals, all right? And it was a few stages here that she's represented. Once again, all this art has been done by Christine Dennett, all right? She represented this one very well, and it turned into this crystalline Merkaba. And at one point, you know, there was a ship with it that the person that was watching with me that looked similar to the golden ball that this one morphed into. So for a second, these two ships in the sky looked identical for just a second, and then the other one transformed into this Merkaba. So I just want to describe that a little bit. So not just dealing with this as a multi-dimensional ship on the inside. We've got the eggs, we've got the maturation chamber, we've got several different classifications of beings that we've went over, that we've seen illustrated, all right? Now we have to also deal with the outside dimensions of this turn from some type of a metal, some type of a metamaterial, into some type, and morphed into some type of a quasi-crystal. All right, so that takes everything. For me as an experiencer, at the age I was at that time, seeing that almost drove me over the edge. Trying to find a frame of reference for that in any modern ufology was very, very hard. So that's something to talk about another time. And I think any of us that have been through stuff like this can laugh a little, because the whole thing sounds weird anyway, but it is what it is. I observe the rules, I don't make them. Anyway, that is the ship that was the interior of it, to describe it a little bit, all right, the organic nature of it. So now maybe that will kind of put it a frame of reference, what it's truly like to be on a multi-dimensional ship, an interdimensional ship, all right, one that's got both metal, metamaterial components, it's got conscious components, and it's got organic components, all right? So that's the real deal. That's a higher dimensional ship. At least ones I've encountered anyway. That's one of the ships I've been on, but one I think I can probably describe the most vivid. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed these videos, please subscribe. Please put a like on them. They're not that easy to do. Eventually I'll run out of stuff to talk about. So please do that so we can keep these going a little bit. God bless.